Hey, welcome to the Hell Has an Exit podcast. I'm your host, Brian Alzate. This show is not affiliated with any specific 12-step program. If you or a loved one is struggling with an addiction, please find a local 12-step meeting. If you believe you may need detox or drug treatment of any kind, please call 888-699-9395 to speak to a specialist. The show is sponsored by United Recovery Project, a state-of-the-art drug and alcohol rehab facility. You can visit our website at unitedrecoveryproject.com. Hey guys, welcome to Hell Has an Exit. I'm your host, Brian Alzate. Today we're doing episode 55, I Got You, featuring Lester M. This is part 2. If you haven't listened to part 1, please go back. It's episode 54 right before this one, part 1 with Lester M. We recommend you listen to that one, obviously, before listening to part 2. If you guys can, please follow us on Instagram at Hell Has an Exit. We also are on YouTube. This is full audio and video podcast. Please tell a friend. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts, whatever you can to help out the show. We greatly appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
And when I met Kim is the first time that I actually
was saying no to the drugs.
To the drugs because I wanted to be with her. You know what I mean? That created completely different, emotions for me. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to live. I want to enjoy my life. I want to enjoy this girl. Like, I want to go to dinner and enjoy that dinner and not be worrying about like, okay, I'm going to drop her off. I'm going to go pick up and use all night long until the sunrise, And that was a fight. Eventually I started using and I put her through a lot, through her not knowing, she has never dealt with an addict before. She barely drinks, that was tough for her to deal with. And now that I'm with her, I continue to use it and kind of like where it becomes almost like my start with my recovery. I'm getting to a point that I'm working on my third OD. I feel it coming. I'm binging again. I'm stuck in the house. I'm paranoid. I don't want to come out of my house. I don't want to go pick up my kids. I don't want to do anything. And it's getting worse. And my hand starts to get locked, and I start.
What did the hospital say? Like, what was that?
So what they said was that my potassium dropped and it created the muscle, spasm. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, so what I did is like, okay.
Banana?
Well, I loaded my house with banana. That's what I did. My house was loaded with bananas.
Yeah.
And for this girl, like she's like, what's up with all the bananas? So I bought like potassium pills and bananas,
Wow,
and
that's the overdose cure.
Dude, so I had my little shaker, like my little ninja, just like, because what and what
got me fucked up.
Dude, no, I'm
That's
serious.
crazy.
Like, I get very creative,
I was joking.
No, I was completely
loaded
serious.
that house up with
Yeah.
bananas.
And what will happen is like the banana, when I'm going through it, it was hard for me to swallow.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I bought a blender so I could make a shake and it'd be easier for me to swallow. Real talk.
You need help.
Bro, you know what? Now I think about it, it's like, well, you could have just put the Coke down, Like, no, man. I loaded up with bananas. Like, that's,
Wow.
that's what I did. And it got really bad, man. Where, like I said, like even Max was just telling me, like, yo, your kids are better off with you dead. And you know what? I became okay with that idea. Like, I remember like having hallucination. Like, one of the strongest one for me was, I remember being at this guy's house and I passed out on the couch and I started like hallucinating that I was dead. I was in the casket. And my ex-wife came into the funeral. I could see her. She was holding the baby in her hand, my little girl. And she's coming with my older one with her hand, right? Like, and they walk towards the casket. I could see her. I'm trying to talk to her. She can't, hear me. And she's just sad and she's just walking. The mother just takes them away. And my oldest, she just turns around and she said like, goodbye, Papa. But like with no feeling, she was just like disappointed, like, goodbye, Papa. And just walks out, man. And that feeling of, you're dead, you can't do nothing about it. And she's probably better off. She's not going to be in pain anymore. She's not going to suffer this anymore. And how low our disease takes us that I became okay with that. That was okay. It's crazy. I want to say that my story was, like I've heard of people like they changed because of their kids and that, I became okay with my kids being gone. The trigger for me was this girl, Kim. She was next. She put up with everything. I've already lost everything. I already lost the house, the jobs. And I felt like I'm one of those, like, I could get those things back easy, man. I know I get back on my feet, but the girl,
crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
The girl, I feel like she's gone. You're not going to get this girl back. Like she's gone. She was tired. She was done. She did like 3 years of pure insanity, calling hospitals, jails, all places, it was just insanity, and she dealt with it, and I said, this is, she's next. Like, she's next, and I remember I had met this guy in one of the meetings. The guy, he used to text me like almost every day,
Wow.
And, I would never reply back. But there was something about him that I felt like, that I trusted him.
Uh-huh.
I pick up the phone and I text him like, yo, you remember? He's like, yeah, of course. And I'm like, dude, I need help, man. I felt that. And I used to say like, oh, NA didn't work for me. Well, I wasn't working NA.
Yeah.
Like I remember I even got a sponsor. He gave me steps. So I brought the steps home. And I told my girlfriend, hey, let's sit down and work steps together. So you read, you ask me the questions, I answer the question, you write them down.
Sick.
So when I told my sponsor like, is she an addict? Like, no. It's like, what the fuck is she writing steps for? So I was doing it my way. I wasn't full in. I made the phone call. He actually recommended me, he gave me the number for URP. He gave me your number. He told me about you. And man, that was
I still remember that phone call.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That was the best call I've made in my life, man. That was because I was not going to make it in those days. I knew it. My higher power was very clear with me that I was not going to make it out of that room, man. And I remember we talked, And
you had never been to treatment before ever, right?
Never been to treatment. I didn't even know about treatments. I didn't know anything, have never like researched, treatment or anything. I just knew that I needed to probably be locked away somewhere. I just needed to be locked away somewhere, and I needed a little time to come off whatever, and it's in deep therapy, And one of the things that I'm grateful, man, I remember it was like at some point I think we talked. It was like 10 o'clock at night, and I called you and you pick up the phone, and I remember like you told me like, hey man, I don't care what you decide to do, go to a treatment center, like go to treatment. Like, you don't have to come to ours. You don't have to come to URP. Go somewhere. And that for me was like, all right, this guy's not just about business. Because, if it was all money, it was like, you got to come to
best,
ours.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, I think what we do at URP is really special and we do a great job. At the end of the day, bro, you're going to go to therapy. You're going to live with roommates. You're going to be told to do shit you don't want to do. They're going to ask you questions you don't want to answer. You're going to feel uncomfortable. There's going to be some structure. You're not going to get along with people.
Yep.
There's going to be some groups you like. There's going to be some groups you don't like. And at the end of the day, it's going to be 30, 45 days, 60 days of you away from the drugs. And it's up to you to make the most of it.
Yep.
And that is it.
Yep.
And I explain it's like the gym. There's really nice gyms and there's really shitty gyms. But there's a fucking treadmill, a flat bench, a leg press machine, some free weights.
The basics.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Some might be cleaner, some might have better customer service, but at the end of the day, if you choose to gain weight again and get fat, it's not the gym.
Yep.
It's your ass.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, I always try to I don't want to tell you, I don't like to overpromise either, because you might go there and not enjoy the treatment center either.
Right.
You might go there and maybe another center is better for you, or you might not be ready to really go to treatment right now.
Right.
But I remember when you were like, oh, I don't think you're going to keep me long enough.
Right.
I was like,
Right. I can't believe you remember that. Yeah.
I remember you were like, oh, well, I want to stay really long. And I'm like,
this guy right here.
I was like, bro, after 2 days, he's going to want to leave. But I was like, that's not a problem here. Like, we don't kick people out.
Right. And that was my genuine concern. See, at this time, I'm afraid of myself. I'm in fear for listen, my issue, and it was very clear, my issue wasn't drugs. My issue, because I enjoyed using, like a lot of people do on a weekend, on a special occasion and whatever. I think that that's okay. My problem is that I cannot do that and like not stop until my third OD is coming. Like, I don't know how to go to a party, finish at 5 o'clock in the morning, go home, go to sleep, wake up the next morning, take a shower, breakfast, have a nice Sunday, and then go to work on Monday. I don't know how to do that.
I don't know how to do that in middle school.
Right. So you know what I'm saying, and because of that, I felt the urgency. Like, I don't want to come back out. Like, I don't want to feel this. If I was trying to run away from pain, I'm in hell. I'm in hell, right now, so keep me, from this hell. I was very clear of what my intentions were. And that's what I'm grateful to hit that rock bottom, because I really felt that, because the insurance, you guys are going to kick me out in a couple of days, and
sometimes when you go to the hospital, like hospitals, like that's kind of what they do.
Yeah.
As soon as you're better, hey, you got to go. Hey, I need to be here longer. Don't matter.
Yeah. My 2 previous, rides to the hospital, as soon as I got better, I'm like, I was dead like a couple of days ago. And, you're going to send me back home.
Good,
right? It's like, we need your bed. You got to get out of here, and I don't want to do that. And, I remember that I was concerned, like I wanted to see the place. I wanted to, and, I got to tour the place, and I met some of you guys, and, man, and a couple of days later, I was in detox, and I always say this, man, URP got me clean. I got clean at URP, United Recovery Project is the foundation of my recovery. Like, what I have today is because of that place, that detox, Riviera Beach. And that's why I go back today, and I will do everything I can to continue to support. Because from the moment that I walked in and that gate closed, there was still a lot of insanity happening. But I now have an opportunity. I now have a chance to live again. And my family has an opportunity again. My kids have an opportunity. My daughters have an opportunity again to have a father on something that I felt that, because of my previous actions, I deprived them from. And I was willing to like let my life go because of it. Now I have an opportunity, and so I took detox, seriously. I was not playing around. I realized that a lot of people go there, and I share about this, like, there is a friendship that you build in detox with your detox buddies, because we're all trying to do the same thing and trying to get clean, and it's our first times, and
there's actually a psychological term. It's called trauma bond.
There you go.
When people have a similar traumatic experience, it bonds them.
Yes.
What
I realized early in detox is like, the reason I'm in detox is because of my buddies. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I ended up here. I don't need no buddies. I don't need no friends. Fuck these people. More than likely, I'm never going to see them again. And you know what? It's all cool and everything, but I need to be in a completely different mindset. Not outside smoking cigarettes, freaking pack a day, just because I want to be cool and hang out with the cool kids. I completely like pull, away from that. I remember like, I started writing like I started writing letters, and started writing like gratitude lists, and I started like doing push-ups and playing basketball and doing all, away from the group, man, and I started taking it like seriously, I remember I did like 18 days, and I asked like, hey, can I be extended? Like, listen, the other thing is like, people try to rush the detox process. What it clicked like really early is like, where the fuck is you going? Yeah. Like, what do you think is happening next? Like, from the time that I went from a white band to a blue band, like, I got more responsibilities. Like, I don't want to, I'm on a free vacation right now. Like, I've never had so much free time to think and to deal with myself like I have here. And I'm pretty sure, I didn't know PHP, but I knew that it was going to be a little bit harder than detox. So let me take my time,
And, and that mentality is addiction, because sometimes it's not about the actual thing that you're going through. It's about the mechanism that is getting people to act a certain way. So like, the other day we had someone that was freaking out about how they couldn't have creatine. And this is a grown-ass man, and he doesn't understand why he can't have creatine. And even me, as someone who works out, don't think it's a big deal. I'm not a nutritionist. We have a nutritionist that works there, and for some reason, she doesn't think that this kid should have creatine. This man should have creatine. And he's really having a fit about it. And it's like, think about, you're in treatment. You're a drug addict. You probably lost everything. You're probably here because your family is fed up with you. You're probably facing some jail time. And all the things you can focus on. You chose to focus on the one thing that isn't going your way. And it's like that's addiction.
Yes.
That is addiction more than shooting up. When you gravitate to like the one thing you can't control, you're living in the opposite of the serenity prayer.
Yeah.
You're focusing on the things you can't control.
Correct.
That is hell. That is hell 1,000%. Yep. You could be clean and still live in that.
Absolutely.
You can be off drugs forever, and you can be miserable, and you could be living in the opposite of the serenity prayer, which is inability to accept things the way they are.
Right. Yeah, and that's big because, and I share this with the guys all the time back in detox. I find it funny because, you know, we get there and there's like, well, they lied to me. I'm like, what do you mean they lied to you? Yeah, because they told me that there was a Michelin chef, and they told me that we were gonna go have long walks on the beach, and that they had rabbits, and that we could pet a turtle, and this and and I'm like, hold on, first of all, time out. When you made that phone call, you were drunk or high as shit. Let's start with that. Nobody calls over, to the 1-800 number, right? Second, let's say that they lied to you. Dude, why are you here? Like, I know the reason I came here is because I was dying.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't because I was high or because, I got really drunk one night. It's because I couldn't stop drinking and doing coke until the point that I'm about to die. That's why I got here. And my concern is about petting a rabbit. Like, they lied to me about going to the beach. Like, this is what you're worried about. Like, then you have how can you stop smoking crack if you're worried about, these going horseback riding? Like, I mean, and I get it when you're at that stage, like the obsession of the disease, but that had to click like really early, really early for me to, to progress, Man, I always say, and I always tell the guys this, they get so caught up, or we get so caught up into all the things like the facility, the location of the facility, where's the mansion, this and that, and I tell them, like, I don't really care about any of that. The only thing I care about is the quality of the therapist. And I found that group of therapists in detox was top notch, man. I mean, like, I still remember every single one of them. Every single session, to the point that I started like, because I like to complicate shit. So I said, I'm going to keep it simple. For the first time, I'm going to take 3 points of each group that I learned. And it was so easy for me to write those points because the quality of them were just amazing. We touched in so many different points, it was more than what I was expecting. I really thought that it was going to be a place that you just kind of hang out there until
the drugs get out of your system. Yeah.
And it was way deeper than that. I mean, it started almost like, things got spiritual, things got, philosophical, things got, we talked, I remember there was a nutritionist that came, they explained like why there's so many candies around. Yeah. I mean, there was a reason for everything,
And I don't like honestly, like United Recovery Project is like an amazing treatment center. And sometimes it like makes me sad because when I see like what all these people have, and it's not just our treatment, like just going to a private facility is a real luxury. Yeah. And if you get the chance to go, it's like, it's a special thing. I get calls, I tell people all the time, but I get calls daily, every single day about people begging me for a scholarship. Every single day. I wish I could scholarship the whole world. Yeah. I really wish I could, And it's like, bro, I got clean in a state-funded place. I went to a state-funded treatment center. It was horrible. No one was an addict.
Right.
Not one person. Not one person even knew what the fuck to do. And I was so young. Nobody was like, hey, you could get clean. This is what you should do.
Especially that part, being so young.
People were like,
relate?
People were looking at me like, what? They were like reading my shit like,
you did what?
And they wouldn't even hide their expression. They would be looking. And I'm thinking like, bro, these are doctors and nurses and people who have seen it all. And they were like, what? Your parents? Like, what happened to like people were literally confused. And I'm like, these are the people supposed to help me. And they don't even know. There was no confidence in their message. And that's why I love the 12 steps so much. Because when I went to the 12 steps, when I went to 12-step meetings, it was spoken with confidence, assurance. There were some absolutes. And there was people that looked like they've been way worse places than I have been. So, sometimes I wonder people like you don't even find out about the 12 steps until later on in life.
Yeah, after my first, I have to go through an overdose
3 times before. Like, how are the paramedics not like, yo, you need to do this, you need to go to treatment?
And that's amazing. I mean, because obviously it's in my system, and the level that is on my system. So they should have a pamphlet like right there, like you need to go here right now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. That's
So, you go to treatment. What was like completing treatment like for you? Because I know it was very hard for you because I know you lived right there.
Yeah, so that was before we jump there. You know what? I would never forget that. I would never forget. You came to detox on like my third or fourth day, and you were showing the place to some people. And I remember you walked in, and I'm like, "Oh, Brian, what's up? Let's this and that."
Because we had talked,
Yeah, and then I remember like telling you like where your mind is at, right? And I remember it's like yo, so listen, I have this domain called on essentialoutreach.com. Listen, when we should talk, because I could provide you with some leads and that, and you sitting there like, why don't you finish detox first, bro?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like finish treatment first, and our minds, man,
I was just at the grad house the other day and this kid was like, bro, I'll never forget. Like he just graduated IOP and we're out and we're getting pizza, right? And he's like, man, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be this. I want to be that. And I was like, bro, if you don't work these 12 steps, you ain't going to be anything.
Right.
If you don't focus on like, bro, you can ask me anything. How to stay clean. What's the second step about? What's your favorite step? What are some things that you did your first couple of years that really helped you?
Right.
And you're going to ask me about some fucking motivational entrepreneurship? Everything I learned in entrepreneurship, I learned through the 12 steps.
Exactly.
Everything I ever needed to learn, I learned by working the 12 steps, by having a service commitment, by showing up consistently.
Exactly.
And like, sometimes I'm just like, it's like the worst when people come up to you and they're like, hey man, I can't wait till I own a treatment center one day.
Yeah.
And it's not that they can't do that. It's that, when you join karate, when you are a white belt, you don't say, hey, can I teach the class?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
It's like, hey bro, why don't you, finish getting to like the yellow belt first,
But and I will never forget like your answer. It was like one of those things that like set me back to like, I have to reflect into like, what am I doing here? Like, what am I thinking about? Like, I'm already thinking about what I'm going to do outside.
Yeah.
Dude, let me get through this. Like, let me focus, and it became clear, like, I need to do this first, you know? And he kind of set like my tone for the rest. Because, I said, it was difficult. I didn't know the treatment was right there. Like, 2-3 blocks from my house, like that liquor store for like that's that was where I used to go.
Liquor, wow.
Yeah, that was my liquor store. The barber shop that's right in front. I used to go there. My boy that served used to go. You know what I mean? Like everything was there. Yeah. And so when we pulled up, first when we're driving, I'm like,
which is rare, by the way. Most people at United Recovery Project that go there are from out of state.
Right.
You're probably the only person.
I was the only person that was
local.
the only person that was local, right? So we're driving, and I'm like, why is this guy taking me home? Like, what did I do? Like, I thought I was, I was doing good,
Yeah.
And so that was intense, but you know what, man? Like, it made me realize, like, I could do anything. You know what I mean? I could, I could do this, right? And that, that was challenging. Like, I remember, like, times being outside, like, smoking a cigarette and seeing, like, my boy pull up to the, to the barbershop, and I'm like, yo, I gotta get back inside, But it also gave me the strength, like, wow, I'm doing this. I'm pulling, like, I don't know. There was something empowering about that as well. I think the big challenge came with that when I broke my knee.
Yeah,
when I
playing
had
basketball, right?
Playing basketball, playing basketball, and I broke the ACL, LCL, and I tear the meniscus. And I remember coming back on Monday, and I'm like, I'm out. I think it's a reasonable thing for me to say, look, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm on crutches. I can't be getting on the van every day.
Right. In and out
of the house.
Listen, for at this, we're not in detox. I have to make my own lunch. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. How am I going to do that? And like I tell you, I was telling you from the story with my dad and how I used to like breed the fish and build my own kites and sell it because it's hard for me. I was from that early age. It's hard for me to ask for help. I mean, it's one of my character defects, man. I'm very proudful. It's from an early age. So now I gotta sit there like literally, like I would sit in a corner, wait for somebody to pass me, like, hey, yo. You think you're gonna make a glass of water, bro? Being thirsty, like dying for the last hour. Nobody has walked by here. I almost felt like like those frogs that are sitting like on a branch and they're waiting for something to pass by and they're like, And another dude will pass by and it's like, bro, can you make me a sandwich? I'm starving, bro. And I saw the camaraderie in recovery too. They were like, Lester, we got you, bro. And these people like they help me and they carry me, and I mean. it was amazing. And I remember, I will never forget, like, this guy, Matt, man, you know, he came and he told me, like, Lester, this is probably the best thing that you, because I was doing, like, you know, I'm one of those that I do really good. Wherever I go, you know, I like to excel. Like, if I apply myself, like, we're going to do good. And I felt like I was, like, flying through the program. You know, I was cruising. I was flying, man. You know, everybody's, like, so proud of me and this and that. And you do so good.
It's called Captain Recovery.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Exactly. You know, I'm that guy. And this thing, like, pull me back. I mean, this thing like slammed me on the floor, you know, and then it's even like the pride thing, like, you know, I like to look good. I like to stand sharp, to stand tall. And here I am walking around with the crutches, you know? And of course, you got people like, what's they used to call me, Mr. Hopalong, and, you know, like, you know, all kinds of, you know, everybody's like clowning me, you know what I mean? And I'm sitting there like, I mean, my pride completely, I'm humiliated, you know, and which I learned later on that, you know, in recovery, you need humility. And for humility, sometimes you need to be humiliated in order to gain some humility, you know? And I learned that later on. And this experience was like God saying, like, you know, you need to slow this down. And you know what, man? And we also have choices in the things that happens to us, you know? I could become a victim and say like, hey, look what happened to me. I'm gone. Or for me, I took it more like, you know what? Let's take this over. I cannot go outside anymore to smoke cigarettes and to do anything. So now, because it's too painful to, you know, it's not worth it, you know? So now I'm going to sit down. You know what? Let me start reading the big book. You know, I got a sponsor that was willing to work steps with me while I was in treatment. He came, he brought me the worksheet, so I started working steps while I was in PHP. I couldn't do anything else, you know, granted, you know, but I took advantage of that opportunity, you know.
And I know, like, you know, I've heard you speak at the center a couple of times, and I appreciate every time you say, like, you know, how many of you go home and just watch Netflix? Right. How many of you go home and you just like eat shit and fuck around and jump in the pool, which is great. But like, how many of you are reading the books that they gave you? How many of you is doing the assignments that the therapist is giving you, you know? And I was telling someone the other day, like, you know, I believe in the 4 agreements so much that everyone who comes to the treatment center gets the 4 agreements. Bro, I had 5 years clean before I read that book.
Right.
That book changed my life. The 4 agreements book was like hands down the simplest, like, spirituality, one-on-one, how to deal with resentments, how to deal with your family, how to, you know, like, even till today, it's like one of the foundations of everything I do in life. Somebody the other day was like, oh, I never seen you get upset. And I'll be like, I just don't like when people aren't their word.
Right.
You know, everything in my life is like kind of based off that, you know? I don't know.
That's crazy that you say that, because my therapist, you know, in PHP, man, I mean, amazing, man. You know, this lady like really made me like take a deep look in, you know, at myself, and then the book, The 4 Agreements, you know. So I read it there. I started to highlight it, and it became part. I mean, it completely changed my approach at everything, you know, because it was more, you know, it became more like, all right, well, how can you be impeccable with your word, man? Like, how do you do that? And what's the meaning of your word, you know, and the strength of your word, right? Like, you know, the black magic and everything that they talk about, you know. And then it was like, all right, well, stop taking things personal, which is an issue. It's a problem that I have today, you know.
It's crazy.
Listen, today.
I still remember reading, even if someone comes up and puts a gun to your head and kills you, it was nothing personal.
Right.
You know, I still remember, how is that not personal? You know? And it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing because it's like, it gets you into like the oneness of all of us. You know, it's like, how could I hate you and love myself? And, you know, how could you do that to me? Where everything anyone's ever done to me, I've done to someone else in some type of way.
Yep. Today, I have the audiobook, and when I'm going through it, like when I'm going through it with my girl, I have to read this, you know, because it was the other one, don't make assumptions, right? Yeah. Like, you know, like, and the last one was always do your best, you know. I mean, I'm telling you, like, I live by those 4 things. It was like, you read all these other books and this big, you know, theological, you know.
So they're 500 pages.
Dude, like, what are you talking about? I can't comprehend all of that.
I mean, I met him. Yeah, I met Don Miguel Ruiz. Yeah. And, you know, the book changed my life so much that sometimes it's like the most simplest thing that can change someone's life. And And it's like nothing I can say better than what it said already in there, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that, and that's what I'm telling, like, I'm so grateful to ERP because the focus was on things like that, you know, on things
that you
like
chose to focus on.
That I chose to focus on, but the reality is like this was brought to my attention there, right? Like I get to travel or I get to visit other locations today, you know, as we do HNI and whatnot, and I get to see, you know, how things are run and what is said, what is not said. And it's true that you know, if you want to, you could see recovery. To listen, I know people who detox in their uncle's couch, you know, and they go to NA meetings and that's all they need, you know. But I love the fact that in Europe, like there was this focus on things like that. You know, there was kind of like, okay, you get this book with every single person that walks in here gets this book, you know. And that for me was just, you know, was because it's life changing, you know. And I mean that was great.
So what was it like graduating, completing URP? What was your first year like? What was year 2 like? You know, or like some things you learned? How important was like sponsorship?
Yeah. So graduating, it was a big deal, man, because you know, I'm not a school guy. I don't have a certificate of nothing. I don't have a certificate of nothing.
Wow.
My first certificate was the completion of PHP. My second certificate was the completion of, you know, IOP. You know, I bodied that shit. Like I bodied that shit, you know, and even for me, like, you know, the IOP, I had the option to do IOP from my house, you know, and I said, no, I'm going to stay in the program, you know?
So, cause like sometimes it's like, I have friends that, you know, try to get clean, right? And my one friend, he's like, okay, I'll do outpatient. I was like, you really should live in a sober living. And he's like, oh, I have a place to live. And I'm like, it's not about, like, people think that sober living is just for people who have nowhere else to go. And I was like, bro, it really is living at home and living in a sober living is night and day difference.
Right.
In a positive way. And you might not like having a roommate. You might not like having a curfew. You might not like having to piss in a cup 3 times a week. That on top of the IOP, on top of going to meetings and service, when it's done all together the same way, it's totally different.
Well, you said it earlier, right? Structure. You said the word structure, right? I think that when you start using, there's no structure.
Of course.
Anything goes. And that's what you become about. You know, and this is about bringing some structure, some discipline back in your life, man. It was the worst part of my day was, you know, going to IOP, going to a meeting, going to my house, having dinner with my girl, with my kids, kissing them goodnight, and a grown-ass man, whole ass before 11 o'clock because I got to make curfew and then I got to go piss in a cup.
Yeah.
Like, that was...
Voluntarily.
That was fucking horrible. You know, I hated that.
That's humility,
I hated that.
you know?
You know, and I'm putting myself through this because I could do it from my house, you know? But I understood, you know, listen, at the end of the day, I don't want to go through that shit again. I love going to detox. I walk in, I talk for an hour, I get the fuck out. Like, I love that part. I don't ever want to deal with any of this shit again. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, my respect, but I don't want to do that again. So for me, it was like, I'm going to give everything now so I don't have to come back here again.
Yeah.
You know?
And I see it all the time. People do, you know, half the program, like, oh, you know what? I'm going to come back and this time I'm going to do this. And oh, I went to meetings, but I didn't get it sponsored. Now I'm going to get it sponsored. Oh, you know what? I got a sponsor, but I never did service. And it's like... Yeah.
They half-ass everything. Yeah. And it's just understanding what I learned about, that whole journey, starting from detox, you know, and I transfer that to everything. Is like, I have to be 100% all in. All chips in. Yeah. All chips in. Dude, I'm all chips in when I'm using. Like, I don't have no reservations to my using. For me, there's no such thing like I'm going to say for tomorrow. Like that doesn't exist. You know, I'm going to use until it's gone or until I'm about, when it's gone, I'm going to get more. I'm going to use until my 30 days coming. Like, that's how I use. So my recovery had to be the same way, you know? And you know what, man, it worked in so many ways. Like, I always tell people, like, I'll get into a fight with my girl, right? Like, this is a normal reason for me to use. We got into a fight. Fuck it. I don't want to deal with her ass. So I'm going to go use, and I'm going to, you know, use all night. Yeah. Now what's happening, like, we're getting into a fight, like, she's tripping about whatever. And I'm like, you sure you want to trip? Because I'm going to leave to my little halfway. I'm going to turn off my phone. I'm going to go to sleep, cool, calm.
Yeah.
And tomorrow we're going to deal with this again. And you're going to be here crying all night, like, you know, trying to call me. So how you want to end this, you know? And it was a safety net, you know? But if I was home, I had to sleep next to her, man, and I had to deal with that all night, you know? I wasn't ready for any of that. You know, you're not ready.
And people think they're going to get out of treatment and they're going to go back to their spouse and it's going to be like all beautiful and...
What changed in 30 days?
Yeah.
What happened in 40 days? I've been using it for 12, 15
that's
years.
Sober living. Even I tell people like, man, just do it for a couple months, 2 months. And it's like that cushion and that, it makes such a difference.
Yeah, big time. Big time. And for me, that changed, you know, and it was cool, man. I in IOP, I got a job doing computer programming, and even that, right? Like I remember my jobs are in Boca, like that's where I get paid. You know, man, you know, jobs are in Boca, right? So I got an offer here in Taft Street, right? They're paying me like $40,000 less than what I would usually make. But my whole thing is like the job was like 2 blocks from the halfway house, like 3 street light from the center. I'm in the area next to a bunch of meetings. Like I don't need the money right now. I need enough money to pay my rent. I need enough money to pay my car, pay gas, pay my little bills, and put $1 in a basket. That's all I care.
And that's the difference between people who stay clean and don't, because the people who stay clean center their recovery and their life adjusts to their recovery. Other people have a life and then they're trying to put the recovery around it, and it just doesn't work that way. And you need to have that solid foundation for, I think, 5 years.
Yeah.
Like I really believe 5 years is a foundation.
Sure.
Like, you know, it seems crazy to someone who hasn't been in recovery, but 5 years is what it takes to build a solid foundation in recovery where you can have some type of maintenance and maybe do a little less, maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
And for some people to be like, oh, well, you know, got 60 days clean.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to take a job driving an hour, you know. Yeah, it made no sense, at least to me, man, you know, and I'm grateful that I was able to have that insight, you know, and it worked out great, you know. As soon as I got out, I drove into NA. You know, like I always said, like, and you know, URP, I got clean in URP. That's my story, man. You know, I tried NA before, it didn't quite work out for me. I needed something deeper. URP was it, but NA keeps me clean, man. You know, I started going to meetings. You know, I got involved, you know, with the home group. I started doing service. I got a sponsor. I went through a couple different sponsors there, you know, for a minute, until I found like the guy that, you know. But even that, I always had a sponsor. Even if I knew there was not the right person, I had a sponsor. You know, the program is a 12-step program. You work the 12 steps program with a sponsor. Like the program is not a meetings program, it's not a fellowship program, it's not, you know, it's a 12-step program. I mean, it's very clear, you know, and so there's a reason for it. I started calling this guy every day, you know, and actually he told me like, oh, that he didn't think I was going to call him. I was going to be like, he's like, oh, you're going to be one of those guys that, you know, you say you're going to call, you'll be, you know, within a couple of weeks, you're not going to call me again. I'm like, I got you, bro. You know, and I still call him almost every day. You know, the purpose for that is that, at least for me, the way I took it is, listen, if I call this guy every single day and I tell him, well, what's going on with me, the day that I'm getting into a fight with my girl, and I may even consider using, he already knows about it because he's been hearing about us, you know, bickering for the last 2-3 days. You know what I mean? We're having all kinds of different conversations. Like my sponsor doesn't hear from me of like, oh, I'm driving on 95 going to pick up. That's too late, dude. That means that I haven't talked to him in a whole week, you know, because nothing happens in my life today that sends me to drive up 95 for no fucking reason, you know, to go pick up drugs. You know, something is being building up, you know. That for me has been, you know, my lifeline there, you know. I started working steps right away. I just dove in, man, you know, and the steps, it's just been like the spiritual principles behind the steps, man, you know. And what's crazy about the steps for me is that they sound so complicated, and the little pamphlet thing is like 2 pages. And I keep hearing about people that have like 20 years and 30 years and they're going through difficulties in life. and you talk to them, they're like, oh, I'm back to step 1, 2, and 3. And you're expecting like this huge like revelation, you know what I mean? And they're like, no, keep it simple, man. I'm being honest with myself. I have an acceptance, I'm having hope, and I'm having faith. Like, and it's like, wow, man, that's so simple, you know? And it's just like the power of that, man.
Yeah, the longer you stay clean, the more you realize that it's like more of a finesse thing and like a technique to things as opposed to like this muscle thing. Because I think like, you know, when we're using, like when you do the 6th step, it's really an exercise of, okay, try to control your defects.
Right.
And you try to muscle them, you really try to control, and you realize you have no control.
Yeah.
And it's like this surrender, you know, in step 7, you know, you get to that surrender and you see how they are removed by kind of focusing on the asset. And in a lot of situations in recovery, you know, being clean, as addicts, we want to like control, because that's what drugs is about.
Yeah.
Drugs are about control. The reason why I do drugs is because I can control how I'm going to feel minute to minute. You know?
Right.
So I think using is more about control than anything else. And addicts really feel out of control when we can't control the way we feel. So we have to learn. It's the first thing we learn is surrender.
Yeah.
You know, that's why when people have issues in treatment, I'm like, it sounds like a great opportunity to practice surrender.
Right.
Because it's like, you know, it's not really about this issue about, you know, your shoes or you don't like your therapist or whatever. Because when you get out of here, there's going to be an issue at work and there's going to be an issue with your wife. And if you don't learn to practice surrender in here, in a safe environment, you're going to go out there and you're not going to be able to practice it.
Yeah.
And surrender is really what treatment really teaches you. Because you don't have your phone, you aren't around your friends, you're not around your family. There's a lot of things in treatment that you can't control.
Yep.
And that is the stepping stone of any type of spiritual development, period. I don't care if it's Buddhism, religion, whatever. Surrender is the core of every type of thing.
And probably the hardest thing for us to...
Oh, yeah.
Like, I remember even saying, like, you know, and just having the realization, like, dude, I don't even control the air that I breathe. Like, you know, like I started like thinking like, you know, like I have zero control of my life, you know? So, and that was like so foreign to me.
Yeah, and the thing is that once you step into that, you actually do gain control,
Right,
which is the paradox.
Right.
So, like, you know, in recovery, we have all these different paradoxes that, you know, once we surrender to not having any type of power over this thing, we actually get empowered. Just like when you have an allergy to a food, when you don't know what the food is, there ain't nothing you can do about it. But when you figure out that you're allergic to shrimp, guess what?
Now you can shrimp anymore.
Now you avoid shrimp.
That's it. No more.
Are you still powerless over being allergic to shrimp? Yeah. But the fact that you know this
gives you power
over not fucking with that shit. And it's like, once I know I'm an addict, guess what? I don't fuck around with people who do drugs.
That's it.
Guess what? I don't date girls that are on drugs. Guess what? I don't go to fucking neighborhoods that I shouldn't be in.
Right.
I don't go to the gas station at 2 a.m. to see what's up. You know? Because now
You're gonna find out.
Now I have the awareness that I have this thing. And once I own that, it becomes an asset.
Yeah.
You know? And that's really what recovery is about turning all the things that used to destroy you into things that are going to now build you up. Because we're really just using our weapons against ourselves.
And if you think about the qualities and the characteristics of an addict, man, you flip those things around.
Oh,
like you know, it's amazing. Like I've seen it in my life. I see it in the life of other recovering addicts, you know, around me. The perseverance of an addict.
Oh, it's insane.
It's amazing, the resilience of an addict, you know, and it was funny. We were talking about it the other day with Edgar, right? Which is it's an interesting thing. Sorry to jump off, but I have Edgar back in my life today at a much greater scale than I've ever had him, you know, before. And you know, and we could get about that a little bit later. But we were talking the other day, and you know, he was saying, I was telling him like how many addicts, recovering addicts, how well they're doing, and he said, well, it's got to make sense because this thing is not cheap. I'm like, no, it's not cheap. He's like, well, so this guy is going out there, you know, how much do you spend? And I'm like, well, it goes into the hundreds and thousands, you know? And he's like, well, if you were doing that before just to get a fix, imagine now you still have the hustle in you, and you're living in integrity, and people are more than willing to work with you, and you still put half of that hustle, and you have nothing else to waste it on. Like, you have to be doing pretty good, you know? And it's just...
What happened to Edgar through all those years?
Man, so Edgar, he continued with the company. He's done phenomenal, with the companies. And he actually, he came to Hay Street. I will never forget. He pulled up with a Porsche. He came to look for me.
Wow.
And I could only imagine what he was going through, pulling into my efficiency, coming from the Mutiny Hotel, where he used to come and visit me, to come into an efficiency in here. And he took me out to dinner, a couple of times, or lunch it was, and just the pain, I remember I came to him several times and asked him for a job. Like, hey, can you give me a job? And he was like, dude, if I bring you in right now, everything is cohesive.
Yeah, you're gonna fuck it all up.
You're gonna fuck it all up, man. I can't do that. I love you, but I can't do that. When I came to URP, I didn't even tell my family I was going to detox. Like I just, I was too ashamed. In the parking lot of URP detox, the only phone call I made was to Edgar. And I told him, like, I gotta do this. And he's like, I'm gonna be, right here when you come out. So as I came out, called him. He came to detox with me one time, and he spoke, with me at detox, one time as well.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, because to him it's like he's got his little brother back.
Yeah.
He's got his little brother back, and in ways that before I just couldn't even, we couldn't even imagine. So today we have this amazing bond, this amazing friendship, that it goes beyond blood. I mean, and what I enjoy is that I'm able to, actually, just that I'm able to enjoy the friendship today. He calls me and he says, hey, let's meet at Sagros Mall. And I'm like, what time? 11 o'clock or 2 or whatever. I'll be there. And because I have a program today, I'm going to be there at the time I say I'm going to be there. And if I can, I'm going to make the phone call. But he's no longer sitting at Sagros Mall 2-3 hours later wondering what the hell I'm at. What story I'm going to come up with that I couldn't show up. They told my car, blah, 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 whatever nonsense, And that's amazing, man.
What happened with Kim?
So with Kim, you know what, man? I used to say before, I don't know what was wrong with her, because like, why would you be with me, right? Why would you stay with an addict? Why would you and I learned from a really good friend of mine, on Alejandro, in the program that he tells me, hey, those people, what's wrong with her? She's an angel that God sent here to protect you and to guide you where you couldn't love yourself, So, we stayed together. We've had a lot of challenges, but you guys still together? We still together. Wow. Actually, so we had a baby shower. Yeah. Remember that you passed by, so thank you for that. I mean, that was like a highlight. They still like, hey, what happened to Nickelodeon? And I'm like, I'm sitting like, who's Nickelodeon? Then I remember the car. Yeah, yes, so and even that, man. Listen, my and this is what recovery has given me. My first baby shower, man. Like I screwed it up so bad. I was in charge of picking up the food at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I'm like, okay, well, gotta be at 6. That's early. So let's just stay up all night. So I don't have to worry about waking up early, and completely screw that up to the point that on my second baby shower, my ex-wife, she didn't want me there. I was not allowed. I was not invited. I was not, and the baby shower that you came to with Kim, I was part of. I was asked to be there. I did that for her.
How long did you have clean at that point?
Probably I didn't have the 2 years yet.
Coming up on 2 years.
Yeah, I was coming up on 2 years. I was coming up on 2 years. Yeah, because it was like somewhere in November, December. Yeah. I was coming up in 2 years. The house that I was hanging on to, the efficiency that I was hanging on to, I lost efficiency. The house that you came to is a brand new house. It's a brand new house, The car that the car was gone, lost, got repoed, whatever, the car. I have a new car now, The amazing thing is that everything has come back, full circle. Everything has come back in a full circle now. I put my priority first, right? Over Kim, over my kids, over all of that, But we have the blessings are there, man. So with Kim, the baby, which is a little bit deeper in the story, but the baby was born on the 5th of January. And I'm not sure, I don't think I've shared this with you, but it was rough, man. We went to the hospital January 5th. When the baby was born, she started having complications. And so then I don't want to get emotional on this, but So essentially the baby was born without breathing. You know, she was without breathing for like almost like 5-6 minutes, you know.
Wow.
They couldn't get the baby out. That was what was happening. The contractions came too fast. I mean, we don't even know what happened, you know. So they finally got the baby out. She wasn't breathing. You know, I'm sitting there. I was like, they had me even helping because they couldn't get enough people in the room. So I was like helping to get the baby out. I mean, it was just insanity, you know, insanity. Kim starts bleeding. She, because of her height, they say that her body has like 5 to 5.5 liters of blood. She bled 4 liters of blood.
Oh my God.
Make a long story short, man, on January 5th, about 2:00, they took her to surgery to see like why was she still bleeding inside the baby. They took her to the NICU, and the doctor was telling me like, hey, you have to be ready, man. I don't think that neither one of them are going to make it tonight.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Having my previous experience with my other 2 daughters, man, there have been plenty times in the hospital. I remember like they were in the hospital one time and I told the mother, I went there and I told the mother, hey, let me borrow the car. I'm going to go get us something to eat. And I took the mother's car. I left her and the 2 daughters with pneumonia in the hospital and I took off for 2 days. Like that's my story. And now here I am at the hospital with this situation. I wanted to run. I wanted to do like what I felt was like my,
escape.
escape, and this is why you work a program, man. This is why everything that you have met me before doing, going to detox, driving an hour up, being an hour there, driving an hour back, doing service. I became the secretary of a meeting, of the beach meeting. I'm the webmaster, for the South Broward area.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, I do, I do the helpline, so I pick up the 1-800 number.
Wow, that's cool.
I have sponsors. I speak at a lot of meetings. I do a lot of work in my recovery.
Program, yeah.
All of that was for that one moment because I just wanted to run, and the only thing that came to my mind was I'm going to make some, I texted my sponsor and then the baby, she wasn't doing good. She was having seizures. So they took her to the Joe DiMaggio and because Kim was doing so bad, she had like 9 liters of or 9 pints of blood transfusion, and she was still not coming back. They gave me a bracelet I was the only person in ICU, in that hospital. And then for the baby, they took it to Joe DiMaggio. I'm driving back and forward, no sleep, no nothing, back and forward. On a Wednesday, baby was born Tuesday, so on Wednesday, this guy, man, this brother, he sends me a text message like around 5:55. Has never texted me before. He sent me a link to a Zoom. I'm like, what the fuck is this, man? I'm sitting there in Joe DiMaggio in the NICU. I'm ready to go. I'm really ready to check out. The baby was in the machine, the pumps, ventilator. I'm seeing my newborn daughter going up and down on the machine. And they sent me this link, and he's like, hey, here's a meeting at 6 p.m. And I just logged into that meeting, man. And, and I shared Bernie this, like, I'm about to go. Like, I can't do this, But, my instinct was to get to that meeting, And then I started getting phone calls and the support from from NA, and people started showing up and people started calling me. And I accepted those calls and I accepted people showing up for me, and bringing me food and everything. And you know what, man? The whole little things that they talk about, like, oh, don't leave before the miracle happens, blah, 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 blah. What would have happened if I would have left before the miracle happened? Because on a couple of days later, the baby started getting better. She started even breathing on her own. And it took Kim almost 30 days to get out of the hospital, the ICU. But Kim got out of the hospital. What would have happened if I would have left before that miracle happened? And I always say like, wow, like, why did God have to put me through this? And it was more like a testament, like, you know what, man, I've never been in so much pain. I've never been so scared. I've never been so like just in touch with reality. Like, I didn't know what was happening, but I've also never known what to do. I don't know if I knew exactly what I had to do. I knew I just had to keep showing up and accepting, what NA was giving. And it goes back to my training with my broken knee, sitting in the corner, asking for help for somebody to give me a glass of water. Now I'm sitting here and they saying like, hey guy, we're going to bring you lunch. And me saying like, okay, even though I'm not going to eat.
Yeah.
You know, it was all that training, you know, and you know, I got to show up, man, and for the first time in my life for the first time in a long time that I got to become that man again. You know, it just manifested, you know, January 5th, that whole week, that whole month of January, you know, on 2021, I you know, I really felt like, you know, I was given an opportunity to show up and I showed up, you know, and that, and I didn't have to use. I'm not telling you that I didn't think about it. It was just there. I didn't have to.
And I always, you know, when I see people staying clean without really doing any work, you know, my first sponsors, you know, he used to say, you know, how you doing? I would say, I'm good. And he would be like, you need to prepare for when the storm comes. And I used to be like, no, I don't even feel like using. And I used to say that all the time. I don't even feel like using. Because it blew my mind that I don't even want to get high. And he would say, like, one day it's going to happen so bad. And he's like, you're not going to be able to hear phone calls. You're not going to want to go to a meeting. You're not going to be able to move. Something's going to happen. You're going to want to get high with every cell of your body. And I'll never forget, he was like, if you don't have a program, if you don't have a higher power, you're going to pick drugs every time. And I remember I started to think like, I don't really see that. Like, well, like what could really happen? like you're really thinking like what could really happen? And the reality is that most people in recovery prepare for the storm during the storm.
Yeah.
And when it's raining, it's already too late, bro.
A little bit
it's
too late.
It's a little too late, bro. You know, you don't put the hurricane shutters on during the hurricane, you know? And the reality is that like I'd rather have the shutters and not need them than to need them and not have them. That's what recovery is like. It's preparing for the storm, getting through the storm, and then getting through the next storm. And every time you get through the storm, you get some experience, you get some knowledge, you get some confidence, you get some humility, you get some growth. But my whole life, if I had a problem, I would always dodge it.
Right.
I would always dodge it, ignore, hide, run. And when you start to go through things instead of around it, it starts to change you, you know?
Right.
And, you know, I told someone the other day, like, you know, I was trying to get him to go to treatment. And I'm like, you don't want to go to treatment? He's like, no, I don't want to go. I was like, what's easier, going to treatment or not going to treatment? He's like, well, obviously not going is easier. And I was like, okay, when you go the easy route, this is where you end up.
Yep.
I was like, bro, if something's easy, I don't even want to do it. I hate doing easy things because I've trained myself to do the hard stuff. I've trained myself to go the more difficult route because that's how you're going to change. That's how you're going to get better. That's how you're going to have growth. That's how you're going to experience new things. You stick in your comfort zone. You keep, like, bro, even a stupid podcast. Yeah. You know what I mean? I've never done a podcast in my life, but I like the challenge.
Yes.
I've grown to embrace the challenge. I've embraced when it's not going at the way I thought it would go to fall into consistency. Because sometimes it feels like you can't be doing nothing right, but at least you could be consistent with your effort.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no,
that's an amazing story. I never knew that.
Yeah, those were it was hard times, man. You know, the last thing in my mind was that something like that was even possible. You know, and literally we were sitting there like you know how you and I are talking here. Me and her were sitting there talking, just talking, and he went like that. That, you know, within a few minutes, the room was getting rushed from people. And I mean, when I could tell you, like, the whole time was just like God's hand, you know, because, you know, I'm grateful, you know, today, man. And you know what? And even the understanding and the perception that those reservations that we have, right? If this happens, I will definitely use, you know. And at some point, because things were still not looking good, you know, even for Kim is a dialysis nurse. She ended up in dialysis.
Wow.
Not only she ended up in dialysis, she wasn't getting any better. And the doctors that she works with, it was the same doctor in the hospital. Her office came to our house to do her home dialysis, you know, and she wasn't getting better at some point, you know. And even at that, having that, like I tell you, I learned this from the guys that have the 20 and 30 years. that they go through difficult times and they go back to step 1, 2, and 3. Listen, I accept that this is the situation. Like why it happened doesn't even matter. I'm here. My daughter was born like this. I don't know what's going to happen with her. Acceptance. I have hope that no matter what happens, man, God got me. And I have faith that this thing is going to get better, no matter what. And if it goes all the way left, I even, for the first time that I had the thought, okay, even if it goes all the way left, I got to keep living because I got 2 more kids and I have her daughter also to take care of. I can't check out. I can't check out. And I never had that kind of resolution in my life, to me it was always like, well, if this happens,
fuck.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's okay. Once I come back, I'll fix the rest. And he was like, no, I don't have to. And I gained that from NA, but working on a program in NA, not just NA. I never understood. I knew that I had to do the work and I knew how to work the steps and I knew I had to have a support. I mean, essentially, I just followed the suggestions. I didn't do anything different other than the suggestions. Man, for me, the program of NA, I think the readings are great. I think that the literature is phenomenal. I think that even the steps are, it's a 12-step program. But it comes down to the key tags, man, the suggestions in the key tag. Stop right there. You would listen to the suggestions on the key tag and you could stop the whole meeting. Like if you could follow that, 90 minutes in 90 days, so you get involved and you start to get with the program, right? You get a sponsor. What for? So you could work steps, right? Phenomenal. Do service so you can get out of your head and start doing things for other people. Where do you do that? You get a home group. That's where you start with service because you may not even know where to start. Very simple. That's it. I mean, those are the suggestions, end of the program, and for me it was just that, and like you said, you showed up for that day. My previous event where my mother passed away, I didn't have a program. I didn't know what to do. That's how I ended up here. So this was that. I mean, I don't, and I know that I cannot just go and disappear for a weekend and I'm going to come back. Like that's not what's going to happen.
Yeah, at least you like that sounds like a lie to you.
Yeah, that's a complete,
Because the further you get away from the program, the more that sounds like the truth, you know? And that's the thing is that most people that relapse don't say, hey, I'm going to go fuck my life up. They just want a little relief.
Yeah.
Just I'm just going to get a little relief, whether it's a beer, whether it's their drug of choice, whether it's something silly, but once you do that one drug, like the literature says, like it's not the drugs that make us addicts, it's our reaction to drugs.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't even be here if you didn't have the reaction that most of us have.
Yeah, no, and I also said like part of it is there's a conflict in my brain. In my head sometimes, getting a gram right now, going to Tootsie's,
Going where?
To Tootsie or
Never heard of that place.
Oh, okay. Well, so this place right over there. No. Never been there before. But going to a strip club, going to a club, and hooking, hanging out with some strippers, doing a little bit of coke, having a little bit of alcohol. Once a month, once every 2 months. It sounds like just to kind of let off some steam. It sounds like a phenomenal idea. It sounds, like probably even, I could sell it. Like my wife could appreciate it because, or Kim could appreciate it because, listen, I'll be less stressed. I mean, I would sell this thing to myself. Yeah. But the reality is I know that there's no way that that's going to happen like that. That's the big lie, So I just stay away from that.
So what happened with Kim? That she made a full recovery?
So, and that's the thing, man. She made a full recovery. Listen, you come into my house right now. Navia is 9 months old.
Wow.
Precious. The most beautiful little girl that you will see, man. Full of life, full of energy, just a joy. Kim, made a full recovery. She's back to work. If you walk into my house right now and you see my kids, even with my kids, like got them back in my life. My kids are with me half the time now. I have them half the time. That's amazing. From where I started this journey going to URP detox, looking at child abandonment and child endangerment.
Wow.
Like child neglect and child endangerment, right? That's what I was looking at. Today, those kids are with me half the time. They're playing with, they're playing with Navia. There's a cat, there's a rabbit, there's a bunch of chickens. Like, my house is, you would never believe, where I'm coming from to what my house looks like today.
You're coming up on 4 years or 3 years?
I'm coming on 3.
Wow.
Coming on 3.
It always like so crazy how people's lives change in 3 years. In 3 years, like they get everything back and then some. And it's like, when I see people rush the process, it makes me just be like, it's like, bro, if you just go slow and do the things you're supposed to do, it's going to happen. It's no way it can't happen.
It's inevitable.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's sad when you see people leave before the miracle.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing, man. I mean, because even with the kids, when I came out, we had them while I was in IOP, we had them like they would come to the house like, during the day or during the night, but I didn't have anything, any particular arrangement. And I didn't even wanted that yet. I wanted to focus, I couldn't deal with that. It took me almost like 8 to 10 months before we started to have them over the weekends, and it's been a slow process, but right now I feel like I'm stable. I'm stable into what in what I'm doing. So they're with me half the time. It's incredible. And even with the job, right? Like, so I started with this job that was like $30,000-$40,000 less than what I usually make. I stayed there for about a little bit over a year. I got an offer for another job. Making what my usual salary. I have a lot of freedom. I work from home, dude. Listen. Not only have I been in this job, I got a 401k.
Hey.
Okay, I got a 401k. All right, they match, full, they match 100% of 4% of my salary. I've never had no 401k. More important, I receive an award in my job for my performance. I've never received no award from nothing. So. It's amazing. It was funny. Like I was trying to like rush at the beginning, straight out of details. I'm talking to you about like doing a website business and this and that. Even at that, it's easy for me as a software developer to do a lot of side work and business and everything else. Once I understood what this was about, I stopped all of that. My focus was my recovery. My focus was meetings, doing service, doing what I was supposed to be doing. Today, not only I have my job, I work a lot with Edgar. We do amazing.
Cool.
Man, we do a lot of work. We get a lot of dealerships that they call me from out of state. We go and we're doing a bunch of things, and it's I feel like it's a joy for me, the things that we're doing and we're working on today. I have a lot of site customers that are constantly, and what I love is I take on a job today. They're paying a significant amount of money for the things I'm doing for them. I'm working in integrity. I know that what they pay me for, they're going to get it. I'm not running away with their money. It's not going to get on, it's going to get done. They're not going to be chasing me. Like, it's getting done. I'm delivering what I'm doing. Before I knew that every time I took on a project, like, oh, you want a website? Like, sure, not a problem. I'll do your website. Yeah, give me half the money, give me $1,000 and I'll start working on it. Gone. You will never see me again. And today is so, it's so different, man. It's so different. So I'm very grateful that I'm getting that, those opportunities.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, Lester, I love you, man. I appreciate you coming out here. And you have a crazy story, bro. It's interesting because it's like, I like doing the podcast because like sometimes there's people that I know and I think I know pretty much most about them. And then like, man, they come on the show and like, bro, they like blow me away.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you.
No, man, thank you for the opportunity. When you called me about this, I was like, a podcast, what? And then, I started looking it up and I appreciate what you're doing, and I hope this message could help somebody, to understand that we come from different walks of life. There's not like a pattern, like this is what an addict looks like, and, but what I love is that the message of recovery is the same. I've gotten the privilege to, like yesterday, I spoke in a meeting in Spanish.
Cool.
It was wild, it was completely different. I've been to meetings, in Europe. I've been to meetings, in the South here. The message is the same. We do recover. you know. And but it's a journey. Like for me, it's like I know that I gotta keep on doing what I'm doing in order to keep it, you know. And in with your platform, you know, I hope this message, you know, is spread that we, you know, there's a lot of us that are, you know, that are still here, you know, and that it's been you know, it's been quite a journey, but it's doable, man. It's definitely doable. I see it every day.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so much. Love you, bro.
Love you, brother. Yeah.
This show is not affiliated with any specific 12-step program. If you or a loved one is struggling with an addiction, please find a local 12-step meeting. If you believe you may need detox or drug treatment of any kind, please call 888-699-9395 to speak to a specialist. The show is sponsored by United Recovery Project, a state-of-the-art drug and alcohol rehab facility. You can visit our website at unitedrecoveryproject.com.